Hi everybody, welcome to or welcome back to Papa's A to Z DIY channel. The inception of this channel was just about a year ago, and at the beginning of that adventure I was out on a salmon fishing trip, and I'm just about ready to go back on that. But the weather has cooled down a little bit from the summertime heat wave, and I'm going to get back on this fencing project. This vinyl section and another on the other end of the pool house was done last year, but phase 3 of this is going to be this section right here, and phase 4 is going to be the section that's up running in front of the pool house. But this one I'm going to have to pull posts out of the ground because they're rotting, and all of the laterals are pretty well gone, and the pickets are just almost nothing. They're falling right off. But I'm going to be switching it over to the same as this vinyl clad here, putting in new posts and lateral and the pickets that I've already got made. But I'm going to get started on that and put a list of materials together, and we'll see if we can't get this section of this project done at least before the snow flies, and maybe even get started on some of the stuff in front of the pool house. But we'll see. All right, here's my list of materials. All right, I'm back from the Big Blue box store, and I ended up with 2 6-footers instead of the 4x4x10. It was easier to handle and it was cheaper. So everything else was as I planned, and I got the concrete up there. I'm going to put the womanized wood up where my planer is so that I can plane that to fit the vinyl sheeting that I have, and then I'm going to put the concrete over closer to where it's going to be used, but inside. The total was $147 and change, and it happened to fall on our tax-free time here in Ohio, right about back to school time. They offer about a week's worth of tax-free, so it applies to everything, and it's a great time here in Ohio not to have to pay those taxes. All right, it's the following day, and I did some editing this morning for my channel, and so I'm getting off to a late start here. But I went over to my brother-in-law's and picked up a couple of post hole diggers that he had, 2 different styles, so I brought them both. I've got out some tools for ripping this down. I've got some caution tape in order to try to keep people from walking over the ledge that's on the other side. But I'm going to turn the camera around, put it on time lapse, and we're going to leave as much as we can sections in whole so that I can carry them over closer to where we burn stuff, and then cut it up over there so I'm not making so many trips. All right, I didn't have the camera set up right, and it didn't go into time lapse. It was just a regular video, so that was just sped up, and then the camera fell over and you didn't get to see the rest of it come down. But all right, it's all in a pile over here. I'll carry that down to the area where we have the fire pit, and I will probably not pull the posts out at this point because I'm going to use those for the caution tape. My wife and I came up earlier this morning, put our heads together, and think that we've come up with a plan on how to change the location of this fence that is going to get us away from those existing holes that have the concrete in them, and work best for staying symmetrical with the retaining wall that goes across here, and I'll turn the camera around and show you what our plan is, at least at this point. All right, the pole that is right up against the deck here, we're going to relocate that to about that location right there, because there is a joist right there. I can see the nails, and we're going to put it right in the corner of that joist and the double header that's on the outside of that deck. So that's going to be our first move, and then from that point we're going to relocate each one of these posts in the same amount, because the company that had originally put these poles in did keep it symmetrical with the curve of that wall. But I'll end up putting it on time lapse, and we'll see if we can get going on this project. All right, 15-20 minutes later, I've exposed the area where I'm going to mount that first post right in here. And I'm not going to uncover the other end because there's a much larger drop over there. But I got a couple more nails to get out. I got to get a bunch of screws out that were in that piece. And over there, that's going to get burnt. All right. I'll bring you back when I get a little further along. All right, one of the things I want to do before I pull out all the old posts is calculate the angles that these laterals are going to go into each one of the poles. Now, the first pole I don't have any choice of, well, I do, but I'm not going to. I'm going to put it in square to the deck, because the other laterals that are coming in that tie in the front of that deck will be it'll be consistent that way as far as being square to the deck. But these that are going around this curved wall over here are set back like at the same angle that the wall is. So I'm going to turn the camera around and show you how I propose to come up with the angles that these laterals are going to come into each one of these posts. Don't know if it's the right way, but it's the way I've figured out that I'm going to do it. All right, when the fence company came in, each one of the posts around this rounded section here were put in at an angle, so they had a little bit of twist. So these laterals here come in at this angle. Let me get a better shot at it. They come in this direction, and the one on this side comes in this way. So they're coming in at, one is coming in this way and one is coming in that way. And I'll show you how I'm going to figure out those angles, at least how I'm going to make up blocks to help the plunge router hold the right angle for those. Okay, hopefully you can see that pink string line that I've set up. I put in a screw on the back side of the post here. I've taken and wrapped it around the two posts where I want to figure out the angle. And then I took my little bar clamps and I just snugged up so that it was tight against the corners. And then I'm going to lay my square in here like this, right along that line. And then I'm going to measure that gap on the back side there, and it looks like it's going to be about 3/4 of an inch, but I'll have to use two hands to do that. And then what I'll do is I will make up a block that comes down to nothing to 3/4 of an inch, or put a 3/4 inch spacer on this end. So when I go to plunge these holes where these laterals are going to go in, they will be coming in at a proper angle. And then, like on this end, I will be doing it like this again, getting this end square, holding it and measuring that gap. And that gap, again, I'll just make up a block, and then as I come in with the plunge router, I will hopefully be coming in at a close enough angle that those will fit snugly into the posts and will look good. But I'm going to try to do all of the routing of those lateral pockets before the posts get put in. All right, it's been 3 days since I've been out here. My daughter's in the hospital, and so we're spending quite a bit of time there, and plus it's been raining. But in between, I have been able to get this post that's going bolted into the deck, screwed into the deck, done. Now I've got two holes, the top hole and the bottom hole, that are going to run over here, and I've got the one that's kind of going over to an angle for the first post that's going to be going out here. And I got that in at a little bit of an angle so that you know, it'll head that direction. But I'm going to turn the camera around and get this thing bolted in. First off, I'm just going to kind of clamp it in place because I want to get the height correct and make sure that I've got some concrete actually under the post where it's going into the ground. It's not only going to be secured to the deck, but also going to go into the ground since I have the length of the 4x4 to do it with. All right, I'm going to turn it around, put it on time lapse, and see how this thing goes. All right, 2 screws in this direction, and I'm going to end up using lag bolts the other direction. And I have 2 different lengths because I'm going to actually notch in down here in the bottom, right here. That's about where that lateral is going to land. I'll figure it out from the top. But I'm going to go in through the first header board here, and then I'm going to actually put that shorter bolt at the bottom of that and go through that post. But I'll have another one up in this area, so there'll be 2 3/8 not lag bolts, carriage bolts that are going to bolt through that post. Okay, there's the inside of the hole, and I'm going to end up drilling through the back of that and putting in the shorter lag bolt. Let's see if this empty is going to fit in there. No, it's not. So I'm going to end up cleaning that out just a little bit so that I can get that lateral with that vinyl in there. Okay, I've got that fitted so it slides in and out of there nicely, and just a nice loose enough gap that I can get some caulking around that. When it's done, I'll just kind of drop it down and turn around from the other side, and I've got my tripod set up out there at just about the angle that it needs to go, and you can kind of see that it's headed towards the tripod, but there is definitely room for play in the end of that foot, so I can hit the pockets in the other pole. All right, it's the next morning. That pole stayed plumb, so I'm gonna go to the next step here. I'm gonna kind of do two things at one time here. I'm gonna make the sleeve for that new post and get the holes cut in it for the laterals to go through. But the other thing that I'm going to do this morning is the poles all are at different grades. So in order not to make this one look like it's going this angle and the next one going at maybe that angle, I'm gonna go first off from the measurements that the original installers of the fence did, because it looks like they did a pretty nice job of keeping it consistent throughout, or at least keeping it to the grade of the property that it's trying to conform to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a straight edge, actually just a 2x4x10, and run it from the top of the old post to the top of that one and see what kind of grade difference it is. And then I'll go from this post over to this post with that same 2x4x10. And what I'm going to use is a block underneath of it. Say it looks to me maybe 4 inches or so, 4 or 5 inches, that the grade difference is. And then I'll check it between each one of the posts, and I'll record that and make any adjustments that I need to make that laterals look like they're staying at a consistent angle, or at least to an angle that conforms to the property underneath of it. But I'll put it on time lapse and just show you a quick reference of what I did. All right, here we go. All right, after doing all of that, I'm going to decide to do this differently. I have my starter hole over there for my bottom rail on that header going to the new post. What I'm going to do, in order to keep my laterals out of the dirt, I'm going to consistently try to stay 3 inches from the ground to the bottom of the post, or the bottom of the lateral on the new posts. And I'm going to just continue that around the whole way, because I have such a variance in grade to the property. I'm just going to stick to that and then measure everything from there up. Once I get those bottom holes in, I'll just make it 48 inches to the top rail, and hopefully it'll come out looking just like it should. All right, the vinyl cladding for the 4x4s comes in 10-foot sections. And what I'm going to do is just cut 3 of these in half and make them 5-footers. And I'm gonna work from the upper section of the posts down for putting the slots in them for the laterals. All right, we're back over here. Let's see if this thing is going to line up. Here we go. All right. Looks like we got her. Now, the only thing that I have noticed with these sleeves that I got from Lowe's, what's the name of the company here? Color Guard, is that they're a little loose on a standard 4x4. And what I did previously on these was put some shims around it and try to center it, and then I ended up putting some foam in it so that they weren't slopping around, because I do have caulking that goes around all of this, and then there's a cap that goes on there. But it's, I thought if this got moved around or bump, it was going to break my caulking loose. But I don't know if it's a good or a bad idea, but that's what I've been doing. All right, so we're actually getting to the point where that hole needs dug. All right, I'm going to decide whether I'm going to do that today with the thread of rain or what I'm going to do. All right, here's something that ticks me off. I went to grab my plumb bob. I know right where it's supposed to be, and I can't find the darn thing. So I'm going to settle for a chalk line that you can use as a plumb bob to get my 8-foot on centers for my post, at least to start locating where I'm going to clear the rock off from under my feet to get this next pole in. But dang, that ticks me off. All right, I wish it was just as easy as going in and putting those slots in the post for the laterals and then putting it in and putting concrete around it. But in order to do this the right way, what I have to do is take and make the pole like I just said, but then I have to also make up the 2 laterals. And these are different lengths because I got one going into, I'll get my finger going right into that lateral, and one at the top of that post, which is set back. So I've got to make those laterals, get those in so that when I set this post, this new post, it's going to have to not only be plumb, but it's going to have to be at the right distance from this pole right, here we go, right here. Okay, I'll get to work on it, and hopefully I'll get this done before the rain comes. right, I have one side of the post cut in, and I've got a tennis match to go to, so I'm going to hopefully finish this tomorrow. Okay, there it is. There's square onto it. You can see how the fence is now gonna take that bend, but I'll put it back on time lapse and we'll get that other one put in. And that's probably gonna be the last one as far as notching these posts out go, because they're all gonna be pretty much the same from here on out. Like I said, I got the holes cut in the other side. So now I've got them coming in at an angle on both of them. I got a sleeve cut straight, on both sides. And since this is only about, let's say 3 inches off the ground to the bottom of this lateral, I'm gonna end up either with this into the concrete or should I cut it off? But I think I'm gonna leave it in the concrete. And we'll see if that was the right thing or the wrong thing to do. But while I had that sleeve cut, I pulled up one of my other pieces that I had cut, and I've already, traced through it. I clamped it, used a vice grip on both ends of this, and traced on the hole locations. And then I'll hopefully just keep doing that. So that I don't have to lay that out every time. But I have a shorter and a longer lateral cut because I'm going into that header. But then, like I had said on some of the previous videos when I was doing my fence, I had to plane these down to get them to fit onto the vinyl sleeve. And you can see here that I've planed the top and the bottom, but I haven't rounded out the corners. See how the inside of that vinyl has got round corners? And then on this piece, I've taken just a plane, and you can see on the floor, I just shoved it in the end of my planer to hold it up here so I could run the length. But here's this one. And I could have got away with less on the sides. I run it through my planer to get this dimension also. So next time I probably won't mill it or plane it as much as I did on this particular one. But it's got some slop on it. But this one, because of those corners, it does not want to slide on. So I'll just set up the camera on the tripod real quick here and show you how I hit those corners. All right, before I put it on time lapse, let me show you something else I did here. I had a piece of that plywood left over from the cabinet, and I cut off about 1.5 inches off the long side of it, which made it the distance from the wall to the inside of this post right here. And how I'm going to use this, I'm going to guess that this is about 30 some inches long. I'm going to take it out here, and I'm going to place it halfway, find about center of this board, put it up here against the retaining wall. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that end just as far as away from the wall as that one. And that is going to, I think, help me orient this post. I'll put the flat side of the post that doesn't have any holes against that, and it will have both of my laterals coming in and out of that post pretty much at the same angle, so that I make this curve, you know, concentric to the wall, if that's the right word. All right, I'll put it on time lapse and we'll see how this goes. All right, I went to put that together and I'm having fitment issues with the top hole. So I went in, grabbed a cutoff from last year's phase 1 part of this project, and I am going to go up here and see if it's catching on the sides, top or bottom, exactly what it is, remedy that, and then put this thing together. Okay, here's the post that's mounted to the deck, and there's the fitment. I'm getting good penetration into that post. And then, as you may have seen, I made this little jack post here to hold from the bottom rail to support this one while I was getting the bottom all the way in. And then when it got tight up against the pole, got tight up against the lateral, that way I could focus on, you know, getting the bottom one in before that top one. But then a little bit of a plan change here because of the ground clearance. Let me get it a better spot here for you. Now that big rock is going to come out of there, but I was going to keep that level. But since I have a lot of enough clearance underneath of there, even after I get those rocks back in around that post, I'm going to go ahead and let it slope down a little bit, and it isn't going to be much more than an inch altogether, but there's where the bubble is from the top of pole to top of pole. And then if I pick this up, oops, there, that was nice on the level. All right, pick this back up. Unfortunately, I didn't break anything, but I picked it up before, and it's about an inch lower at the top. And the other thing is the board that I cut here, I've got about the same gap there as I do there, and I'm going to be able to rotate this post so that it should split the difference from to the next post also. And then the other thing is that concrete is not going to touch the bottom of that vinyl, so that won't be an issue. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this all back apart, get the concrete mixed, and we'll see if we can get this thing set. The only thing I haven't done today is figure out a way that I'm going to support this pole as it cures in the plumb position. But I'll figure out something. In, it's to grade. There's the little bit of fall that I was talking about on that top rail, and the bottom should be the same. And my distance is the height off the ground that I was looking for. And again, the concrete does not come up over the vinyl, and I'll fill the rocks back in around that. And that strap is holding to keep it plumb in both directions, and came out. The first section done, and we're going to get on to the next hole for the next post, and we'll get the next section in. Thanks for watching, and I'll get to editing the next video so you can see how this project is coming along.